The Phantom Troupe comprises of some of the most notorious criminals in the world of Hunter x Hunter, a group so strong that Silva Zoldyck believes the payment isn't worth taking a job targeting one of them, and he advised his kids to never pursue them. Even the Zodiacs, who are some of the strongest hunters in the association, who are handpicked by Netero, are wary of the Phantom Troupe. Sitting at the top as the leader of the spiders is Chrollo Lucilfer, and we'll be covering his abilities and feats throughout the story to see how strong the head spider truly is. If you enjoy Hunter x Hunter content and would like to see more in the future, feel free to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel, that'd be much appreciated. Before we delve into Chrollo's general scaling, it's important we understand his Nen ability, Skill Hunter Bandit Secret. This ability allows Chrollo to steal and store the Nen abilities of others and use them for himself. However, if the owner of the Nen ability dies, the stolen ability will vanish from the book. The only exception to this is if the Nen user develops post-mortem Nen, then the ability will remain in the book. Although this sounds like a very overpowered Nen ability, there are 4 conditions Chrollo needs to meet before he can steal one's Nen ability. Firstly, he needs to personally see the ability at work. Then he asks the user questions about the Nen ability and get them to answer it. Lastly, the victim's palm needs to be placed on the handprint of the book's cover, and all these conditions must be met within an hour. In order to use a stolen ability, Chrollo has to hold the book open to the page of the stolen ability with his right hand. However, later on in the series, Chrollo figured out a way to circumnavigate that issue by developing his Skill Hunter, but I'll cover that later on. As the leader of the troupe, it goes without saying that Chrollo is the strongest spider, which is also supported in the Hunter Guide. The troupe includes heavy hitters such as Uvogin, who has the power of a small missile with his Big Bang impact, and Phaeton, who was capable of obliterating transformed Zarzan despite his rising sun being on the weaker side. Just to be clear, Chrollo isn't physically as strong as Uvogin or as destructive as Phaeton's rising sun. However, as an overall Nen user and combatant, he's far more skilled. The only troupe member, or I should say former troupe member Chrollo is debatably stronger than is Hisoka. I've done an entire video covering the magician, so I won't go into great detail here, but the reason why Chrollo's most skilled statement doesn't apply here is A, Hisoka was technically never a spider, and B, the statement was after Hisoka had already left. The reason why I bring up Hisoka is because he asks Machi in Greed Island what would happen if he killed Chrollo, to which Machi said it'd be unlikely. Even without seeing one's full power, a Nen user is still able to gauge another's strength by sensing their aura, and Machi has seen Hisoka fight in Heaven's Arena. Some may retort this with Morel's criticism when Killua did this to judge Pito's strength, which I'm not here to question or argue against in this video. Just remember when Netero asked Colt to judge his strength compared to Meruem based on their aura, Morel was silent on the matter. Anyways, the main point is Machi has an idea of Hisoka's strength and doesn't think it's likely that he can kill Chrollo. There's also a potential element of bias on Machi's end, as Chrollo is their leader and a childhood friend, which might have influenced her take. During the Succession War, the Phantom Troupe linked up with the common goal to kill Hisoka. Phaeton and Finks tagged along with Nobunaga to make sure Hisoka didn't catch any of them slipping. Phaeton outright says they all acknowledge Hisoka's power, and Finks wanted to make sure that Hisoka didn't have a slither of a chance if they ran into him. For Chrollo to be at least as strong, if not stronger than Hisoka, is just more evidence that his skill eclipses the rest of the spiders. Of all the hunters Hisoka has met, the Zodiacs are among the very strongest, and Kanzai even says they're stronger than the likes of Morel, who is very clearly above the level of leader class Chimera ants like Leo, Chitu and Zarzan. Hisoka ranks Ginta at 9, Kanzai at 8.5 and Pion a 7.7 on his power ranking scale. So assuming Hisoka is a 10 and Chrollo is arguably stronger than him according to Machi, Chrollo is also stronger than most of the Zodiacs. Even without the assumption that Hisoka is a 10, Hisoka ranks Illumi at 9.5 but is still more interested in fighting Chrollo. Putting statements and inferences aside, Chrollo's first major feat in the series is his fight against Zeno and Silva Zoldyck. This has somehow spawned controversial talking points and arguments, but as far as I see it, it's extremely straightforward. The Zodiacs were paid by the 10 Dons to kill Chrollo, and as Zeno made it clear, they don't work or kill for fun, meaning there's no reason to assume they would hold back on a target they've been paid to kill. On the other hand, we know for a fact that Chrollo wasn't fighting to kill them, but instead to capture them in order to steal their Nen abilities. Despite this, Chrollo was still able to keep up and dodge several of Zeno and Silva's attacks at the same time, even in moments when he had his back turned to one of them. Chrollo was even able to react to Silva whilst initially being on the ground and counter him by cutting him with his Ben's knife. 0.1 milligrams of the toxin is lethal enough to paralyze a larger whale, so unless one has high level poison resistance like Silva, this could be an easy win condition against most people. Chrollo was also able to defend against Silva's Nen enhanced punch as well as Zeno's emissive attack right after that, which is impressive as Silva is strong enough to one-shot the likes of post-proof training Cheetu. Advanced Nen users use Ken for both offense and defense, so being able to defend against both Silva and Zeno's attacks suggests that Chrollo's offense with Ken is at the very least on their level, if not greater. Silva acknowledges that Chrollo has grown a lot stronger since they last met, and they might have to pay with their lives in order to stop him. We don't have much context on their past fight, but we do know that Silva killed one of the spiders for a job and he concluded that the pay wasn't worth it. This was likely due to his confrontation with Chrollo shortly after this, who was most likely out to avenge his former comrade. This would be in character for Chrollo, as he's currently out to seek revenge against Hisoka for doing the same thing. It's also somewhat supported by the Hunter Guide, as Chrollo usually gives orders to the spiders from his hideout, but sometimes heads to the battlefield when it's necessary, and the latter would be the case for Silva assassinating one of the spiders. If Silva's aware that targeting one of the spiders would lead to conflict with Chrollo, it makes sense he'd warn his children to stay away from them. It also portrays a younger Chrollo as someone who could be a serious threat to Silva, and he's only grown stronger since then. Back to York New, Silva understood the cost they may have to pay just from how a suppressed Chrollo was keeping up with Zeno's Dragon Lance whilst keeping an eye on him. Silva and Zeno's final combo just cements Silva's sentiment as they performed a sacrificial-esque move which had Zeno keep Chrollo in place with a barrage of punches while Silva launches 2 huge aura orbs at the both of them. Both Chrollo and Silva survived the attack, but it's more impressive for Chrollo as he had to endure a barrage of Zeno's punches on top of it. So what if Chrollo wasn't holding back and actually trying to kill or defeat the Zoldycks? Not only does the Hunter Guide reiterate that Chrollo was holding back, but it also answers the main question. It's stated that if Chrollo's fighting to defeat his enemy, his combat strength rivals Zeno and Silva Zoldyck. This could be interpreted in one of 2 ways. Either that Chrollo is just relative to either one of them, or that Chrollo is relative to both of them together. The former interpretation doesn't make much sense in context of the fight they had, as Chrollo, whilst holding back, could hold his own against both of them trying to kill him at the same time. However, Zeno does claim at the level Chrollo was fighting at, he could beat him in a one-on-one, which Chrollo in a way concedes to, as he admits he doesn't think he can steal Zeno's ability. On the other hand, Zeno admits it would be a different story if Chrollo was actually trying to kill him, then calls him an insolent brat. People can cope about this all they want, but it's pretty clear Zeno is just conceding to Chrollo in an actual deathmatch, especially considering the topic of discussion here is who would win in a fight between the two of them. So to conclude this mini section, Chrollo, when he's fighting to capture his target, he rivals but is weaker than the likes of Zeno. However, when he's fighting to kill, he's clearly on a different tier to the likes of Zeno and Silva, with higher interpretations potentially making his combat power rival both Zoldycks put together based on the statements in the Hunter Guide. What's crazy is this isn't even the end for Chrollo, as we learned during his fight with Hisoka that he actually improves as a fighter. This is due to developing the double face bookmark theme, which gives him the ability to use a stolen ability without having the book open by marking the page with the bookmark. Just to be clear, the bookmark is an extension of Skill Hunter that Chrollo developed himself and not a stolen ability. In order to develop this, Chrollo now has to deal with more conditions which are currently unknown. However, he says that his combat efficiency has vastly improved because of it. This makes Chrollo an extremely dangerous fighter, as he already had the physical ability and combat skill to compete with Zeno and Silva, but now he can use a stolen ability whilst fighting with both hands free. The original purpose of the bookmark was to allow Chrollo to use a stolen ability that requires both of his hands, which wouldn't have been possible with his previous conditions. So by using the bookmark, Chrollo can now either use two stolen abilities at the same time, or he can use one stolen ability but have both hands free for hand-to-hand combat. Even though Chrollo had months of prep time to formulate a strategy and gather the abilities needed to guarantee a victory, he still shows he's at least relative to Hisoka in speed and is capable of physically damaging the magician. He's even tough enough to endure getting hit by a head that weighs about 7 kilograms that's being swung by bungee gum, and he only bleeds a little bit. Chrollo is also a very versatile fighter due to the amount of stolen ability he has possessed throughout the series. Currently in the manga, he is in possession of a teleportation ability, the Fun Cloth, Indoor Fish, Sun and Moon, Order Stamp, and Covert Hands. The last three abilities were all integral to meet the conditions for a guaranteed victory over Hisoka, and he will likely steal more abilities in future. In short, Chrollo is comfortably one of the strongest and most versatile nen users in the series. Even while suppressed and only trying to steal another's ability, he's able to hold his own against Zeno and Silva Zoldyck at the same time, who individually scale much higher than Squadron Leader class Chimera Ants. His intelligence and ingenuity is listed in the databook to be a 4 out of 5, which is reflected in his genius plan to create the ideal conditions to guarantee an overwhelming victory over Hisoka. As of chapter 406, Chrollo aims to steal the 3 sacred treasures of Kakin, as he believes it will upgrade Skill Hunter to the point he can ensure Hisoka is eliminated for good. But only time will tell how much stronger Chrollo will become and how their future encounter will turn out. That's about all there is to say about the head spider, so if you enjoyed this and would like to see more HxH content on the channel in future, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, that'd be greatly appreciated. I've been the one and only HxH, and until next time.